Hey guys, so today we're going to be making homemade sunscreen bars. Now what I did was I took all of our ingredients, which I will actually put below the measurements for you guys, and I now have them in my double boiler melting down so we can get a nice consistency before we add our zinc. Now we want to make sure we use non-nanoed zinc, which I'll put a link to the one that I use below as well. And the reason you want to use non-nano zinc is that way the zinc doesn't absorb into your skin and it actually stays on the surface level. Now, I don't use commercial sunscreens for many reasons, which I won't get into here so I don't go to YouTube jail. But in that same concept, if you're running low on time and you need to just put something on your skin, you can actually just apply tallow straight to your face too, or the areas that burn easily, because tallow itself has a natural SPF to it. This is why I use it in a lot of things. Now, would I apply tallow to my skin knowing that I burn easily and go sit on the beach for 72 hours? Probably not. But it will if you're working in the yard or going out and about in town, stuff like that. It will help you prevent from getting that scalding burn, because I usually get it right at the top of the crown of my head. That's why I wore bangs for many years. And I'll also put it on my shoulders if my shoulders are going to be exposed for long periods of time. And you can actually put it in a jar and take it with you if you need to reapply. Now, the reason I like this recipe is this recipe takes that tallow and it incorporates it with some other items to actually give it a solid approach to it, so you can use it like a bar. Now, I have poured this into deodorant containers. I have used it like my lotion bars. I have put it in a jar and whipped it like a cream. So you have many preferences and things that you can do depending on the consistency that you like. The only thing I haven't done right is to it more of a liquid nature to kind of spray. So maybe in the future I'll figure out how to do that, but for now it's just easier to kind of use it as the bar. So if you've got littles around that want to apply it themselves, it might be easier to put it in a deodorant container. That way they can hold the container and apply it to them. But adding the zinc to it adds that extra SPF level that you need for longer periods. Now again, this is going to take you probably, from what I've read, somewhere to an SPF of 20. So again, we're not going to be applying this and staying out on the beach or out in the yard long term without kind of checking where we are. Of course, I stay out of the sun in high UV peak hours, so I do a lot of my gardening early in the morning or later in the afternoon, because, well, again, burning is not the end of the world. It is not a pleasant experience, especially if you're like me, where you burn, freckle, peel, repeat. So I'm going to let this melt down, and once this melts down completely, we're going to take it over and put it into our containers and add our zinc to it. Okay, so I have removed these from the heat now. We're going to take about 4 teaspoons of the zinc and add it in. Now, I find that if I sift it, it works better, prevents it from clumping. And then once you get it in there, it's going to kind of look like this consistency. So we're just going to kind of stir it until that zinc incorporates in with our melted oils. Understanding it's not an exact science, some will still be left at the bottom of your container. But you see, as you start to stir it, it takes on more of a white consistency and not necessarily the yellows and stuff that were there before with your melted oils. Let me move this before I make a colossal mess. Like I said, I started to do this because I wasn't really a big fan of conventional sunscreens for many reasons. So I wanted to know what I was putting on my skin. A lot of people tend to forget, right, that our skin is our largest organ. It absorbs a lot of what's going on around us. You're not going to get an SPF 50 or anything like this from this. This is going to come somewhere right around a 20, like I said. Just looking at the properties, they're there naturally with everything that we've put into this. So again, let's utilize common sense with these. Stay out of the sun during peak UV hours. Then we're just going to pour them into our molds, and then once these set up, they'll be ready to go. So I'm going to let these cool, and we'll come back. So you see, these have come out beautifully. And they've got the little design on them like we need. And then we don't need it, but pretty's nice. So then all you're gonna do from there is I just store mine in a jar. You can leave them in your fridge. If your house is slightly warm, for those of us that have not moved to air conditioning yet or at all, you can then just store them in a jar and take them out when needed. What I do if I'm going to travel with them, I'll wrap them in like cellophane or something, but then of course I will keep them in my cooler. If I'm going to be out, like at a lake or a beach or somewhere like that, I'll keep them in the cooler. That way they stay, cool and don't melt while we're out and about through the day. If I'm going to be home, then of course it just stays in the house, and I come in and I apply as needed. But like I said, just understand that while you know everything that's in this and it's more beneficial to your skin to make them this way, you're not going to get that 50 or 60 or that high SPF rating to kind of block like all the UVA rays. So if you are sensitive to the sun, if you're sensitive to coconut oil, tallow, or any of those, you can. If you're alpha gal, you can make these without the tallow and just substitute in like shea butter or something like that. But I find these very beneficial. We use them off and on through the summer as needed if we're going to spend a lot of time outside. So I appreciate you guys stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.